The political news cycle is fast, and keeping up can be overwhelming. Trying to find differing perspectives worth your time is even harder. That's why we have scoured the internet for political writing from the right and left that you might not have seen. Has this series exposed you to new ideas? Tell us how. Email us at ourpicks@nytimes.com. For an archive of all the partisan writing roundups, check out Our Picks. From the right, Stephen K. Bannon, President Trump's former chief strategist, had harsh words for Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, on Saturday at the Value Voters Summit in Washington. Mary F. Calvert, Reuters. Rich Lowry in Politico. This is the state of the GOP in a nutshell. It is a party locked in mortal combat between an establishment that is ineffectual and unimaginative and a populist wing that is ineffectual and inflamed. The best way to explain what's happening within the Republican Party is to use the example of what happened in the Alabama primary that selected Roy S. Moore, a candidate endorsed by Stephen K. Bannon, as the party's nominee for an open Senate seat. Mr. Moore defeated Luther Strange, who was backed by President Trump and other establishment figures. The biggest loser in that race, writes Mr. Lowry, was Senator Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky and the Majority Leader. Mr. Lowry, who is an editor at the conservative National Review, argues that Mr. McConnell has not figured out how to integrate populism into the traditional Republican agenda. Read more, James Wallner in the Washington Examiner. McConnell can help unstick the GOP's agenda if he changes how he does his job. Mr. Wallner writes that the Majority Leader must accept responsibility for legislative failures and acknowledge that his leadership style must change. Second, he must ensure that all Republicans see him as an impartial arbiter between warring factions of his party. Third, he urges Mr. McConnell to empower other Republican senators with leadership responsibilities. Read more, Fred Barnes in the Weekly Standard. Democrats won't be pleased. The steps McConnell has taken in recent weeks are aimed at thwarting their efforts to block, sideline, or delay President Trump's nominees. Mr. Barnes explains, in detail, all the ways that Mr. McConnell has aided the judicial confirmation process. This includes, Mr. Barnes points out, a revision of the blue slip process, which in the past allowed senators to hold up a judge's confirmation by refusing to return their blue slip, or recommendation, to the committee. Read more, Susan Wright in Red State. Donald Trump doesn't like being upstaged, and today's Rose Garden conference looked suspiciously like a dash of cold water, right in Bannon's uppity face. President Trump's news conference with Mr. McConnell sent a very clear message to Mr. Bannon, at least according to Ms. Wright. The president has, for the time being, aligned himself with the Senate Majority Leader and focused, as a point of pride, on the nominations of conservative judges. Read more, from the left. Mitch McConnell left the Senate Majority Leader, with President Trump in the Rose Garden on Monday. Tom Brenner, The New York Times. Jonathan Chait in New York Magazine. Bannon doesn't have any way of targeting potential impeachment votes directly. But Republican senators who don't want to purge McConnell or eliminate the filibuster are a pretty decent proxy. While Mr. Chait admits that it might be a mistake to attribute any serious strategic planning to Mr. Bannon, he nonetheless speculates about why the former White House advisor might be targeting Mr. McConnell. Perhaps, he writes, Mr. Bannon is focusing his efforts on senators willing to impeach the president. Perhaps, he also posits, the Republican Party is used to running on a cycle of purges, starting with Newt Gingrich's stint as Speaker in the 1990s. Read more, Kerry Eleveld and Daily Cosbeth. Trump and McConnell made sure to play down expectations, reminding reporters that it took Ronald Reagan years to get tax reform done in 1986. The main point of Monday's news conference, Ms. Eleveld argues, is to reassure people that reports of Mr. McConnell's rocky relationship with the president were false. However, she writes, the alliance may be short-lived. Particularly if the GOP fails to deliver on taxes, then all bets are off and the president will have no hesitation to tear congressional Republicans limb from limb. Read more, __________. Greg Sargent in the Washington Post. Trump allies and Republicans are so desperate to pass this tax plan that they're also doubling down on another strange argument. If Republicans don't get this plan passed, their majority in Congress is doomed, and with it, so is the Trump agenda. It is possible that the public friendliness between Mr. Trump and Mr. McConnell is about the Republicans' desperation to pass tax reform, suggests Mr. Sargent. He is wary of the narrative supplied by Mr. Bannon and more establishment figures like Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. The only conceivable way for the GOP to save itself from the economic populist ferment among GOP voters is to pass an enormous tax cut for the wealthy and corporations, he writes. Can someone explain why we are supposed to believe this? Read more, _________. Finally, from the Central Cross in the Kentucky Standard, the chances of Republicans losing their Senate majority, or McConnell being ousted, seem remote at this point. But we said likewise of Trump when he began running. Mr. Cross, writing for the Kentucky Standard in Mr. McConnell's home state, argues that the tension with the president marks Mr. McConnell's biggest challenge so far. He warns that even if Mr. McConnell achieves a legislative win and sees tax reform through, that may not be enough to save him in the primaries. Bannon seems out to cash in on the Trump base, and McConnell's critics smell blood, Mr. Cross writes. Read more, ________. Want the partisan writing roundup in your inbox? Sign up for the Morning Briefing newsletter or the What We're Reading newsletter. Have thoughts about this collection? Email feedback to ourpicks@nytimes.com.